Well, Cyber Monday sales, they are here. The annual discount day, of course, means holiday shoppers don't even need to leave their couch to score some deals. However, this year, some retail experts say supply chain issues could be impacting online sales. That could then send consumers back to brick and mortar stores instead. Nonetheless, cyber shopping is expected to increase to $3 billion in sales this year. And with the growing popularity of Cyber Monday and online shopping, hackers will also be in full swing trying to snatch your data. Larry Zelvin is the head of financial crime unit at BMO Financial Group and joins us this morning. Larry, thanks so much for joining us here. What are your big tips? What's your first couple of big tips for people if they're planning on logging on and trying to score some deals?
Yeah, well, thanks, Nick. It's great to be here with you this morning. I mean, the biggest thing I have for folks is slow down. Really take your time and be somewhat skeptical, not only online, but also on the phone. Folks are out there, they're trying to trick you. The next thing I would say is if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. Really, really be cautious about things that seem like you're getting a huge value or a huge discount. Next, passwords. Don't ever share them, whether they're online or if they're one-time passwords you get on the phone. No one should ever ask you for those, and you should never give them. Lastly, if someone asks you to pay either by a gift card or by a debit card, while they're wonderful, no one should ever be asking you to use those directly. Reason being is that they can actually get your money much faster that way.
Yeah, that is scary. And Larry, let's talk about some of these websites. So just because you're buying something from Amazon or eBay, I mean, those are credited websites, but it doesn't mean that everything you buy on these sites is legitimate, correct?
That's correct, Jennifer. In many cases, you actually think you're buying something, and again, it may be of greater value. They may tell you that since something else is out of stock, they have it in stock, or they can ship it much quicker than others. Again, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is, so just be extra careful. You can also Google some of these websites because people use social media to report when there's a challenge. So unfortunately, you've got to do some homework in order to be careful and do these things right.
And Larry, what can banks actually do for their customers if a customer realizes, oh my gosh, I've actually bought something that's illegitimate, or I've gone to a site and given my information? What's the advice here? Should you be calling your bank quickly? And on the contrary, what will banks do to help people necessarily if they've made a mistake like this?
Yeah, no, great question, Nick. Look, we're all going to make mistakes. Even I've made mistakes, and this is my job. This is what I do for a living. So, look, the best thing you can do and the most important thing you can do is just call your bank, call your financial institution. In many cases, if it's a vendor, such as Amazon, among others, you can call them. But speed is of the essence. The faster you can get to us, the faster you can get to the vendor, the higher the probability that we'll be able to help you. When it comes to BMO, if you go to BMO.com, scroll all the way to the bottom. We have a security and report fraud website. So if you don't know how to contact us, that's the best way to do it.
Okay, and Larry, what happens if a website that you're buying something on, it gets hacked? Is that dangerous?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, websites are getting hacked. I mean, the most frequent way people get hacked, if you will, is through email. Opening in a link, clicking on an attachment that they shouldn't open. And again, you've got to be very skeptical. I would also urge your viewers and all of you, really spend some time with your children and folks who are elderly. They are the most often victimized. Those are the folks who tend to jump on the lures the most, and they're also quite afraid of reporting these things. So because they feel shame when they shouldn't. Please tell everybody, have an open, frank conversation. When something doesn't look right, doesn't seem right, tell folks, tell your financial institution, tell the folks you're doing business with so we can help you.
All right, Larry, listen, we appreciate these tips. Of course, it is Cyber Monday. Lots of people logging in, but better to go in and prepared to make sure you know what you're in for. Appreciate the time. Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you all very much.
Okay, and what more better way to usher in the holidays with a little bit of rom-com movies and Netflix's first LGBTQ-centered holiday film, Single All the Way. Check it out.
You got me a down vest.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Aren't y'all breaking the rules? I thought the whole point of this was to keep presents a secret from each other.
Rules are meant to be broken, especially when it comes to insane rules that make zero sense. Why are we all in separate rooms?
Single All the Way is set to start streaming on Netflix in just 2 days, and Jennifer Robertson is one of the leads in this ensemble cast and joins us live now on CP24 Breakfast. Jennifer, great to have you with us. I love your hair right now as I'm seeing it. So much different than Jocelyn on Schitt's Creek, and of course, you play Lisa in this new movie. There's a bit of history in the making because this is the first LGBTQ rom-com made by Netflix. So tell us how you came to be on this project and your role as Lisa in this film.
I'm thrilled to be part of this project. When my agent asked me if I wanted to be a part of it, I was 100% I want to be a part of this. And then every day I would find out the cast, and my mind was blown when I heard Kathy Najimy and Jennifer Coolidge and Michael Urie, and I get to play Michael's intense sister, which is pretty fun.
And of course, Michael Urie saying that there is not a person on this cast who is not funny. You mentioned some of the names there. Now, we all know Jennifer Coolidge. She's been called a comedic genius by him, and she, of course, best known as Stifler's mom, Janine, on American Pie. What was it like working with her?
She's hysterical. She's kind and giving, but she's just, I don't know, she's one of those people, she doesn't have to be saying anything or even doing anything, and she's still making you laugh. The whole working with Jennifer was just trying to not ruin the take because she was making you laugh.
Yeah.
She's fun.
And of course, Kathy Najimy from Sister Act. I loved her in Sister Act and Hocus Pocus. Was she just as fun to work with as well?
She was. Kathy is so playful and mischievous. And from day one, it was like, what antics can we do to entertain ourselves? Day one, we were like, let's see how many Nespresso pods we can steal from this kitchen set. And she had one in her bra.
Oh, wow. I love it. Okay, and Jennifer, let's talk a bit about this movie, Single All the Way. So Michael Urie is the perpetually single male. He wants to come home for the holidays. And tell us what happens, because he kind of gets his best friend / roommate, played by Philemon Chambers, to come along and be his pretend boyfriend. But things take a turn, right?
Well, he doesn't take the turn. The family makes things take a turn.
Ah.
We adore his friend, we adore Nick, and we feel like we can see something that the two of them as friends haven't been able to see. So there's a bit of Christmas magic and trying to make them see something different in one another that they hadn't seen before.
Right, and of course, Michael Urie's mother, played by Kathy Najimy, right, encourages him to fall for her hot fitness trainer, played by Luke McFarlane. Now, what I think is really special about this film is that all the characters, the gay characters, are played by gay actors, and this is important for representation.
It's absolutely important, and I think it's important to start making more rom-coms and Christmas movies that are telling all kinds of love stories as well. And that was part of my interest in the project, is this diversity. I mean, we have a lot of hetero rom-coms. We could fill that warehouse at the end of Raiders of Lost Ark with hetero rom-coms. So it is about diversity and showing all kinds of love. And Luke he's so sweet in the movie, and I'm not very nice to him, and I felt bad about it.
Well, maybe you can make up for it in real life. Jennifer Robertson, such a pleasure to have you with us, and congrats on being part of Netflix's history-making rom-com film. Take care.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
And joining us live this morning is federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Singh. Thanks for joining us. So let's talk about the Omicron variant. The federal government imposed these travel bans for all people coming into Canada, with the exception of the U.S. Do you think that this is enough, or should we be doing more?
Oh, well, I think we should really focus in on some of the tools that we've seen be used in other countries that work very effectively, which are testing and quarantining. We've seen a lot of concerns raised about the lack of a good quarantining system when people do come to Canada. That's where we should put a lot of more attention. I think that's a tool that hasn't been used to its most effectiveness, and it's one that is actually really, it works, and it helps keep Canadians safe. So that's what I want to see more emphasis on.
Mr. Singh, of course, Parliament just resumed a couple of weeks ago after sort of that 2-month break beyond the last federal election. The messaging seems a little bit strange, whether it was the throne speech where the Liberals really seem to be sort of governing like they have a majority, to the fact that it took more than 2 months to get there. What is your sense of the tone and tenor going into this, next several weeks ahead of the Christmas break? Has anything really changed that much in Ottawa?
Well, one of the things that, to me, that's quite troubling is that we've got two major concerns right now that we're up against. We've got a housing crisis, which is truly a crisis. We've got the climate crisis hitting hard in British Columbia with flooding that's just wiped out communities. We've seen people lose their homes, their farms, their lives. And we don't see the same urgency in the Liberal government's response to these problems. With a crisis like the housing crisis, people are desperate to find housing. They can't find something in their budget. The Liberal government hasn't responded to that crisis with the urgency required to deal with the problem. And so I feel like they are not making choices to solve the problems that Canadians are up against. I want to be really clear. I want Parliament to work for people, but I don't want the Liberals to think that they can take our support for granted. And they seem to still have a bit of arrogance around their position of power when it's clear Canadians sent them there with a minority government, and that means they have to work with someone else to get support.
Okay, and staying with the housing issue, the NDP has pledged to build 500,000 new homes, affordable housing, in 10 years. What are some of the immediate things that the Liberal government needs to do right now to address things like the housing crisis?
Well, the former Bank of Canada Governor, Mr. Polo, stated really clearly that Canada has a role, the federal government has a role to rapidly deal with the housing crisis. And I agree, they absolutely, that Mr. Polo is right. Mr. Trudeau and the Liberal government have a very important role in dealing with the cost of housing. Two things I need to see happen, or Canadians want to see happen. One is there's a lot of pressures driving up the cost of housing. The federal government can deal with that speculation that's pushing up the cost of housing astronomically with tax changes, with measures to address the speculation. And on the supply side, we can see the federal government play a stronger role in working with municipalities and provinces to deliver real funding to immediately build more homes. So we want to see that dual approach and then help to first-time home buyers. Those are some of the measures we want to see right away.
Even in the, you talk about immediately build more homes, that does take some time. Is there anything you see that could be done right now to perhaps change the situation, whether it's from a policy perspective or just even, changes to stress tests, those sort of things, Mr. Singh, that could help people right now, tomorrow, this week, get into a house sooner?
Two things. One, we know that those pressures that I talked about, the speculation right now, we need to see a foreign buyers tax. We need to see measures that discourage the property flipping that we're seeing, where prices are going higher and higher in a really unsustainable way. So we can put those measures in right away to discourage those practices. And then we could see additional supports for first-time home buyers, ways to help them in buying their first home.
Okay, and Mr. Singh, you talk about renovicting families and that the Trudeau government, they have been supporting these big developers. What do you think they need to do to change that?
Well, the CMHC approves loans for mortgages for developments, for projects. There could be a stipulation that projects are not approved if they are renovicting, if they're going to remove people from their homes, if their purpose is to make the rent or the cost of obtaining that housing even higher. So there's ways to put in criteria that loans will only be approved for housing which is affordable, and it will not be approved in cases where it's going to cause someone to be renovicted. And we know this is a real concern. People are losing housing that is affordable because of renovictions.
Yeah, certainly an issue that we're going to continue to follow. NDP federal leader Jagmeet Singh, thanks for joining us this morning. Take care.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, well, we know the temptation to spend is certainly heightened, especially during the holiday spending season. But with soaring costs for many goods, getting your finances in order sooner rather than later, of course, can avoid potential financial blunders.
Oh, I know all about that. Lori Campbell is the Director of Client Financial Wellness at Bromwick & Smith and joins us live now on CP24 Breakfast. Lori, great to have you with us. So I love this line, festive frugality, right? This is something that we can all do to avoid resting Grinch face, something that we see in the holidays. So tell us, what are the main things to avoid holiday shopping blunder?
Well, first of all, one of the most important things to remember is, when you're done shopping, you're done shopping. So put the wallet away, put your credit card away, and make sure that you're aware of what you've spent for everybody. Make sure you have a budget and make sure you stick to it and close everything up once you're done.
Lori, right now, we've been talking a lot about inflation, certainly for the last 2 or 3 months. Is that already having an impact on the prices of goods that we're buying? Because some people think, oh, I want to buy more because I want more presents under the tree, but we may be paying more for what we've already been buying. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. And, don't forget there's a shortage, right? We've got a supply shortage on top of that. So inflation plus a supply shortage makes people panic, and they'll overpay for items that they find that they can't get anywhere else. So, try to remember, one of the tips is try to remember all of the wonderful memories you had during the holidays and all the things that you did that were so special that didn't really involve gift buying, taking your kids out for hot chocolate, making a snowman, skating, all those types of activities around the holidays that don't cost anything and can be very memorable and can help you with your wallet.
Okay, and Lori, you do have the 12 financial blunders of Christmas. I think we previewed this list yesterday, but let's go through it because some of these are really interesting and they really involve when you're shopping in person as well. Because as we know, back to in-person shopping is on, and you kind of have to be physically ready for this because it's not easy to shop in person, especially during the holiday season when the malls are busy, when you're shopping with kids and strollers. But there's also a methodical way to go about it, right? Like you have to have a plan in place. Can you go through some of those?
Yeah. So first of all, let's talk about, actually getting there and what you're going to be doing. One of the plans is make sure you're not hungry or tired. You're going to rush in and get, we've all done it, right? You rush in and get whatever you can. Try to go at off-peak times too, because if you go at off-peak times, the malls and the stores aren't as busy, and therefore you have the time to look around yourself. Make sure you're wearing comfortable clothing. Nothing worse than getting to the stores and then, your feet are killing you. They're swollen. You're not wearing the proper shoes. You're overdressed. You're hot. You're dragging your coat around. So put all those plans in place. Do your own gift deeds. So important. You want to make sure that you don't send your husband out to shop for you because let's face it, that could be a disaster in the making.
Yeah, that certainly sounds true.
But, Lori, the deals can be so alluring right now. You see the 50% off, 60% off, and you think, boy, if I buy that now, I could really save some money. But, you may be paying a big price for that saving.
Exactly. I always say, it's never a sale or a deal if you can't afford it. Okay, right. It just isn't. And also, a lot of people don't recall what they've actually spent over the holidays. So, let's talk about that, making sure everything that you need for the holidays is on your list. And it's not just about the presents, about the extra food. There's a cost to that. There might be outfits you need to wear over the holidays. There's decorations. All of those things need to be factored in because nothing worse than getting that credit card bill in the new year and realizing that half the things that are on that card you really didn't have in your budget and you overspent.
And that can really have an impact, right? You think, okay, you get through the holidays and sort of you hold your breath before you get that credit card bill. But if you can't pay that bill, there can be some pretty steep consequences, to your credit rating, potential bankruptcies. There are many factors and many things that can sort of fall out from overspending this time of year, right?
Well, absolutely. There can be many things. I mean, let's face it. January's tough for a lot of us. It's colder. The days are short. We just came off of the high of the holidays. And suddenly you got these credit card statements in that have blown up. It's a very stressful time for people. Let's face it. They don't call it Blue Monday that second or third week in January for, no good reason. It is because people are very stressed. And finances can really add to that stress. There's no doubt.
And speaking of stress, Lori, we know that many families will be hosting big Christmas get-togethers this year. And you're saying you have to factor in the cost of not just buying presents, but the cost of the turkey, the alcohol, the drinks, the cakes, everything else. And on top with that, there's also this issue of keeping up with the Joneses, right? Like trying to outdo other people's gifts. And they might have a different financial budget than you do. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. How many times have you tried to outdo your friend or your relatives or even your spouse trying to get that perfect gift? And then you keep one-upping each other. And let's face it, if you can't afford it, you better think about something special for them that is within your price range because there's always going to be people out there that overspend or outspend you. And you can't start doing that race. I call it a race to the bottom. Because it's a race to owing a whole bunch in the new year that may not be affordable.
All right, Lori, these are certainly some key tips. Hopefully you've helped save some people some money and some heartache come those January bills. Appreciate you being here on CP24 Breakfast today. Thanks so much.
Great tips.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're talking Christmas shopping and spending, and a new consumer survey has found that 1 in 4 Canadians overspent on Black Friday and Cyber Monday. This survey by Financial Planners Canada found that those who overspent did so by at least $250. However, 60% of shoppers surveyed said they stayed within their budgets on Black Friday and Cyber Monday.
The average Canadian shopper spent about $385 in total during both events and expects to carry more than $800 in additional credit card debt into the new year. Now, FP Canada Ambassador Tina Terachian joins us now. Tina, thank you so much for joining us. So let's talk about this survey put out by FP Canada. And it showed some pretty interesting things, that the ones who tended to go over their budget are in a certain age category, that 18 to 34 age category, correct?
That is true. Young people did exceed their budget more than others. I think it was overall, the results of the survey were good because more than 60% of people did stick with their budget. But it was also interesting that people who used the services of a CFP professional or a QAFP professional actually did better. And about 3/4 of them did stick with their budgets, and 7 out of 10 of them said that they will get out of the shopping season without any debt.
Tina, when you talk about people carrying $800 of sort of additional credit card debt into the next year, what can that $800 mean or sort of do to someone's either credit or ability to continue paying and covering their bills?
That's a good question. Obviously, we are facing a situation where interest rates are on the rise, and it is important to control debt and try to reduce it as much as possible, especially consumer debt that could cause incurring very high interest costs. So getting out of that debt could prove difficult. So it's better not to get into that hole in the first place.
Thank you so much for your time and insight on this. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Bye-bye.